Hello everyone, today we have the Austria, Alsace, and Germany annual tasting, which we get one a year. Luckily, it happens to be the hottest weather of the year.
Woo.
Just the perfect day for crisp whites. The majority of what we're going to be tasting will be Rieslings from both Austria, Alsace, and Germany. And we're in a perfect time to start out there. We'll start out with Alrum, which is one of our DIs from Austria. They have just landed, and we have 4 great wines. We're going to start with a promo option, which is the return of the famous Alrum Grüne Veltliner 1 liters. Always crisp and bright, zesty, incredible value. $11.99 makes them the most inexpensive liters we have right now. I love the Etz and the Polarhof, but I'd love you to sell the Alrum since we have a pretty big position. The Alrum used to go in the Best Buy Club a lot, but because of shipping costs associated with using wine shipping, we're not putting the Alrum in the Best Buy Club this year. So you will be seeing this instead, stacked and ready to rock. Speaking vintage-wise, 2020 is a very strong vintage in Austria and Germany. And very interestingly, 2021 is a very good vintage in both Austria and Germany. So unlike the problems that have plagued Burgundy, Bordeaux, Loire, Spain, a lot of the other countries in Europe, the vintage looks to be extremely strong for both Austria and Germany. The only issue is going to be quantities. Quantities aren't huge, but the wines look to be spectacular. One reason you won't see a lot of wines from Brundelmeyer and Niegel, 2 of my favorite producers, we're in the midst of switching over vintages from 20s to 21s. The 21s aren't here yet, and the 20s are on the last case or 2. So I don't want to overdo. Heavy tastings are going to be gone and move to the next vintage. So the next one is the entry-level Alrum Grüne Veltliner offering. This is the Strauss offering, $13.99. Another possible promo entry, although I think we're going to focus first on the liters. But this is a wonderful wine, super successful. We've done it in the past in the clubs. I'm in on the clubs as a promo. I did really, really well and sold out extremely quickly. These wines would have been here probably 4 months earlier. They were literally delayed 6 months. So while a lot of people are still waiting for wines to land, we have 2020s when a lot of people are going to be going to 2021s.
What separates the Strauss from the standard that we kind of all know and love?
Just a little bit higher quality of fruit,
Okay.
and a smidge of like used oak versus the 1 liters are going to be purely in stainless steel.
Okay.
I think you can see there's a little more depth on that, a little more roundness.
Yeah.
It has that quality, kind of the viscous quality too. I even feel like on the palate in comparison. Next we go to the Alrum Altareben Grüne Veltliner. Altareben is old vines. This wine definitely has a lot more complexity and depth. To get an old vine offering for under $20 is pretty much unheard of. And I always find this one to be one of my favorites in the portfolio, especially, like I said, for under $20. So next we'll move to one of the best offerings Alrum does. This is their 2020, the Heiligenstein Riesling. One of the top vineyards for Riesling in Austria is the Heiligenstein. Austrian Riesling is probably one of the most underrated categories in the world. I really think they can stand toe-to-toe with the greatest Rieslings in the world. And when you taste them, you really find out why. It's not always that I agree with a lot of sommeliers about ideas about the wine business. In this one, the sommeliers talked a lot about Australian Riesling and why it's so great, and I think it shows in this bottling. You know, they really have the perfect climate with just terroir, the right climate, the right terroir. Everything kind of happens to make great Riesling in Austria. Wow, they're showing well. Yeah, I'll go to Charles Bauer. That's the
Let's
one.
go, Shamina.
All right, next we move to another one of our DI properties. This time we're going to move over to Alsace, and this is the Charles Bauer Sylvaner 2018. This is one of my favorite offerings from these guys. It's just a killer value at $12.99. Wonderful tasting wine and a great example of the heights that the Sylvaner grape can reach. So Charles Bauer is probably one of our most important DI properties as far as Alsace goes. These wines represent a tremendous value. We generally get in 1 to 2 shipments a year. And if you're looking for something that just will blow the doors off other producers, this is a great one to go with because the pricing is just so strong. It's just always shocking to me that they're able to give you the quality of the wine they give you at the price. And following into that, a perfect example of where they really show off. The 2015 Charles Bauer brand Grand Cru Riesling. To get a Grand Cru Riesling with a little age on it that's showing this well for $22, silly. Like Grand Cru Vineyard, $23, unheard of. And it's just a spectacular wine, a wonderful value. And I think you really see the Grand Cru pedigree. Pinot Blanc's great. Yeah, and also, you know, I love that the Sylvaner by Charles Bauer. The Pinot Blanc is also equally impressive at almost the same price point. One thing that's going on in Alsace that hasn't been talked about a lot is they are moving to bringing in a Premier Cru designation. And there was a long war and battle over this. There were a lot of producers who didn't see the need to create a Premier Cru designate, but they're going to do that. So. Another great value from the Charles Bauer portfolio is the Gewürztraminer Fronenberg. I always love this wine. It really is a great take on Gewürztraminer. Showing wonderfully fresh, bright, fruity. You get that peach note. Everything that you kind of want from a Gewürztraminer. There's also a higher end one that we have for a few bucks more, which is the Pfizerberg. That's another one that's excellent. And I believe that one is $23.99. So for a couple bucks more, you can kind of move up into a Grand Cru designate if you so choose. What's really nice about the Bauer wines, you know, they're very fine and elegant, but they have a really nice floral aspect to everything. And I think I really appreciate that, and something that makes me, you know, kind of gives you that Alsatian feel. I think Gewürztraminer is always a bit of a shock to the system when you taste super dry Rieslings and then you taste a Gewürztraminer. It can also taste like there's a fair amount of, it always tastes, I think, to me, like there's always more residual sugar than there actually is. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a little mind trick just because of that floral quality that they kind of hit you with.
Still really matched with that nice tropical note
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, so it's really
It's
key.
amazing for the price, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really.
I mean, that the Bauer wines are stunning. I can't get over the value they are. I always push for an email, and I always push for email because we have a lot of it, but I also push for an email because I want it to get in the hands of people, because I feel like once you taste these wines and you see the price of these wines, you're gonna come back to these wines because they really just offer such a tremendous value. There's kind of a hierarchy of producers that I always think of when I think of the greats in Alsace. Trimbach is one, Zenhumbrecht is one, Weinbach is one, and we're gonna be tasting wines from those three producers specifically today because I really wanted to showcase the impressiveness of these guys' Rieslings. We're gonna start off with the 2018 Trimbach Selection VA Vin Riesling for $39.99. I love this wine, it's powerful. It comes from two plots of very old vines located in the Hunoir. And if somebody really wants a fabulous Riesling and they're willing to pay a little bit more than a $20 price point, you really can't go wrong with the Selection VA Vin. It's that good, it's that spectacular, and it always impresses me. Another wine that's a special offering that you won't see all the time. This is the 390th anniversary bottling for Trimbach. So Trimbach began in 1626, and this is a bottle that commemorates their 390th anniversary. It's a 2016 vintage. It comes from a selection of the top plots in Alsace. I find it to be a little bit more powerful, and also the complexity and the levels on this wine are really impressive. It's definitely an age-worthy Riesling, but delicious. A great warm weather, fancier option wine. Yeah, this is another wine, we have a fair amount of it, and it kind of surprises me because every time I drink a bottle of this, I'm like, this wine is so good. It should sell out and be gone.
It's so pretty and so fresh at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It's just the right amount of stick.
So falling on top of the idea that Keith Mabry, where it's good to taste you guys on a few reference point wines and or producers, Trimbach Frederick Emil is one of the reference point wines of Alsace. It's a fabulous offering. It's a top-notch wine. It's still affordable in kind of that $60, $80 range, depending on the vintage and the exchange rate and all those other things. But what you see about this wine is it has ageability. It always has a bit of an oxidized character to it, but it's powerful and deep. It comes from both the Geisberg and Osterberg vineyards in Alsace. And this is the 2013 vintage. Well, we also have some 11, 12, and 14 in stock and 16 on pre-arrival. So the fun thing about this wine, if you fall in love with it or a customer does, we have other vintages, and each vintage sings its own little song. I mean, you can really tell the individuality. One of my favorite vintages I've ever tasted is the 07, which was just stunning and powerful. And you really notice, as we're moving up the level of Trimbach offerings, that each wine gives you more depth, more power, more complexity. And you see why the tariff goes up a bit on each of these offerings. There's a refinement there, and that finish. The finish just goes on and on and on. If the Cuvée Frederick Emil is a reference point wine, the Clos Saint Hoon is the granddaddy of them all. pretty much recognized as the greatest wine produced in all of Alsace. This comes from the Rosacker vineyard, the Grand Cru Rosacker vineyard in Hunawar. And it is one of the most ageable, impressive offerings you'll find from Alsace. 17 is a wonderful vintage. This is a great example of what this wine can be. We are drinking it painfully young, but I do feel like it's a great chance to kind of taste something that's spectacular that you might not get to taste very often, and really is a great example of kind of the top wine of Alsace. You know, one thing I kind of failed to mention is pretty much every producer in Alsace is either organic or biodynamic. They just don't make a huge deal about it. That's pretty much how they've been farming for a long time in Alsace, and you're going to see that continually. So I am clicking the organic box as much as I can remember to do it every time on these guys. Some are biodynamic as well. You always have the question though of do they want to pay for the actual certification, and then also if they pay for that certification, then they get their hands tied if they get a difficult vintage on what they can and can't do. So some guys, while they may practice that way, they may not always have the certificate, and that's something to keep in mind. Moving to one of the more important producers in all of Alsace is Domaine Weinbach. And Domaine Weinbach has a pretty incredible story, because basically in 1979, Theo Fowler, who was the owner along with his wife Colette, well, Theo passed away and he only had daughters. So Colette, the wife, and the oldest daughter, Catherine Fowler, took over operation of the winery. And this was the first ever woman-run winery in France in 1979. So Catherine has kind of been at the head of this winery for a long time. She was running with her youngest sister, Laurence, who tragically passed away. And then her mother, Colette, finally passed away. And now Catherine runs it with the help of her sons, Theo and Eddie. But it's a pretty amazing story when you look at that. Domaine Weinbach wines are known for being a little more floral, a little more elegant, finesse-driven, but they're always just wonderful, pretty examples of what you can kind of find. And I'm really a huge fan of these wines. Okay, next we're going to move to the Cuvée Theo Riesling from Domaine Weinbach, which obviously is also named after her father.
No,
We did Theo, now it's Laurence.
Oh, you did Theo?
Yeah.
Okay, my fault. Whoops. Sorry, so now we're going to Cuvée Laurence. Sorry. Cuvée Laurence is named eponymously for the sister who passed away. I think you'll see a bit of a difference between the Gewürztraminer from Weinbach than you did with Bauer. Just a little more high-pointed. They do kind of press the needle a bit more on the floral aspect of it, but I really like what they are doing. It's a little more expensive too, obviously at $44.99. The Domaine Weinbach wines, much like the top wines from Trembach, you know, you're gonna pay a little more for premium, but you still in general are getting pretty fantastic quality of white wine at a very fair price. I mean, you're tasting Grand Cru vineyards, you're tasting top single vineyard offerings that are still in the $20 to $50 range for most of these things. And for a fabulous white wine, I think that's more than fair and affordable. And going from Domaine Weinbach, we're going to go to two offerings from Zin Humbrecht. Zin Humbrecht might be my favorite of all the Alsatian producers, possibly because I had the luck of having dinner with Olivier Humbrecht, but also just in general, what we're finding is his wines are spectacular, biodynamic, organically run. This is the Riesling Grand Cru brand, which is just one of my favorite vineyards for Riesling in Alsace. This is a 2019. What I really like what Oliver Humbrecht has done is he's backed off on the sugar level and the floralness of his wines. If you were tasting Zinhubrecht 10, 15 years ago, and this is more towards his father's move. His father liked more of a floral, sweeter style of Alsatian wine, where Olivier really is championing much more of a mineral-driven style, and I prefer that actually. I think when they get too floral, you're just gonna get lost in the aromatics. But you see, it's almost like the organic biodynamic way he wants to go lends itself to a more mineral style. So it's kind of a win-win with the movements of where this house is going. So, you know, with Zinhubrecht, they have a ton of Grand Cru offerings across the board. I chose the 2019 Clos Winbull because I feel like Clos Winbull is probably the best example of what their Gewürztraminer profile wants to be. And I think it's a stunning wine. I think you can contrast this against the Cuvée Laurence. I think they should get a little more floralness, a touch more sweetness, but it's just a delicious Gewürztraminer. And I know a lot of people aren't the hugest Gewürztraminer fans, but I feel like when it's done right, it's pretty fantastic. And I think these guys have really hit a home run. So for Alsace, that kind of wraps it up, but I really feel pretty excited. I mean, between, you know, Charles Bauer is going to give you the value to sell. Trimbach gives you the name and the pedigree and the reason why those wines are fantastic. Weinbach are pretty and floral and won't be around very long because we get what we get and then it's gone. And then Zinhubrechts are just perfectly made wines that you can kind of feel the precision of the winemaking. So now as we move into Germany, I think we'll start, let's just talk. The 2021 vintage in Germany is a fantastic vintage. Unfortunately, it's a small vintage. So as we were saying earlier, you look at what's happening in Burgundy or Bordeaux or Loire or Alsace, 2021, super difficult. They had some difficulties in Germany in 2021, but everything came together. And what's really exciting is Germany had, just like the rest of Europe, a lot of hot vintages. And the 2021s actually ended up almost being a return to classicism, where they got that perfect level and amount of acidity and sugar. In the past, you know, cabinets have been tasting more like a Spätlese, but the 2021, the cabinets taste like cabinets used to taste. And the alcohol levels are noticeably down. So we're starting off with two offerings because they're like the first two that have come in. But this is Donhof. And Donhof is one of my favorite producers in all of Germany, located in the Nahe region, run by Cornelius Donhof and his father Helmut, who's semi-retired. Cornelius is a very serious man. He literally looks like a Bond villain. He's got that German Bond villain feel to him, but he's pretty fun, and his wines are fantastic. This is its entry-level Riesling. If you notice, it's a little bit lower margin, 28.7%, but I wanted to really keep it at $19.99. I really like that price point, and I just didn't really want to push above it. But I think this is a great wine to hand to somebody to get them started on German Riesling. It's just well balanced, it's not too sweet, it's not too dry, it's not too petrol, but it's got a little bit of those notes. So it has everything kind of in nice balance. And what's interesting is most of the time when I think of German wine, you always think the word Mosel, 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 Mosel. And this isn't Mosel, this is Nahe. But the wines are just tremendous. And you really see that when you move into the next offering that goes slightly up a level, which is the Tonschiefer. And really what makes Tonschiefer so important is it's mostly from clay soils, hence the name Tonschiefer. And you really see the difference in the wine, a little more minerality, a little more balance. We will be seeing a fair amount of 2021s coming in from Donhof. On his higher end wines, we're offering them on pre-arrival right now, and they're mostly going to sell out. But you should be able to see the Tonschiefer, a Kreuznacher Trocken, the regular Trocken, Oberhauer Liestenberg, you'll see. But I don't think you're going to see any of the higher end wines because we just got smaller amounts. We're going to sell them on email for pre-arrival, and then they'll be gone. But these wines are just fun and really affordable and great examples. And this is really your first set of 2021s you're going to get to taste. The next set of 2021s coming in is going to be Richter, Max Ferdinand Richter wines, which they always kind of make me think of the counterpart to Charles Bauer. They're inexpensive, they're wonderful offerings, and they give really, really great value. So one of my favorite wines that I always love to bring to parties and have friends try, and they always love it, is the Warsching. And this is the Sylvaner, the Schwerby, in the Boxspul. So Schwerby is one of the German grapes, indigenous grapes. Hans Warsching does a wonderful job. This wine, I think, is spectacular. You get melon and herbal notes, and it's just funky and different in a really cool way, and it's a great summertime wine. The wines of Warsching are fantastic. I think I may bring in more offerings because I really like whether it's Sylvaner or Schwerby or Pinot Blanc from these guys, just because their take on it is fantastic, and the wines are really fun. The melon, the floral, the herbal, all the notes that kind of tumble out of the glass are hard to beat. So I'm slightly amazed that we still have a fair amount of 2020 JJ Prune left in stock. It did arrive late, and the price did go up for the 19 vintage. And the press came out late on the prunes, but Prune is probably the most important producer in the Mosel. The wines are spectacular. They do tend sometimes to have a little bit of a sulfury note to them when they're young, but that blows off. But when you taste this cabinet, I mean, it is just like having the most incredible fruit cocktail. It's just fruit cocktail, and it's beautiful, and I can't wait to see what the 2021s are going to be like, especially on the cabinet level from this producer, because the wine, it's seductive. It's just beautiful and pretty and so easy to drink. Unfortunately, a little more expensive, but really, really good. So the two main vineyards that Prune focuses on the most are Weyler Sonnenner and Grocker Himmelreich. And so we'll go up a little bit more, and we'll go to the Grocker Himmelreich Spätlese, which is always going to be a little bit sweeter in style, but the balance and the fruit and the nose on these wines are spectacular. And I do feel like you do see the influence of warmer vintages on Prune wines specifically, because Prune wines were always kind of tough and tight, and I don't think these 2020s are tough or tight at all. What's everyone think of the Prune wines?
Mm-hmm.
Every time I taste Prune, I wish I had more money. Because they really are fantastic. And these wines age impeccably. What's really nice is the track record of Prune. You can throw these into your cellar too, and if you can resist opening them right now. I mean, the way this wine's showing, it's hard to want to put that into a cellar.
fan of the Hemmelreich.
Yeah, super tasty, huh?
These are awesome.
So, 2019 Dr. Lusen, Erzinger Würzgarten, using Alsace. I always think it's important to taste an Alsace so you can get an idea of what that sweetness level really means. I sometimes think in our mind we think Alsace is overly sweet, and it's sweet, but I don't think it's as sweet as everyone thinks when they haven't tasted one for a while. I really like the job Lusen does. You know, Lusen is a workhorse producer. They make a lot of wine, but they hold their growers to very strict rules. They tell them how they want the wine grown, how they want it picked, and the quality is always there. And there's some of our best sellers in, the cabinet and spotlight levels. And they do a great job. I mean, the Erdner Treppich tastes different than the Erzinger Würzgarten, tastes different than the Weyler Sonnener. And you get to see those gradations across everything they do, which is really, really important. And I'm always happy to see. So we are going to move. I had to throw one German red in, so we can slightly talk about German Pinot. If there's one place that we've seen that global warming or climate change has helped, German Pinots taste a lot better than they used to, and you really see the improvement. There's a much better ripeness level. The wines still have a little bit of a juniper, almost Christmassy tree thing going on, a piney thing almost, I would say, but I think it shows a lot better now. One of the best Pinots I ever tasted was an August Kessler, high in This is Schnappmann, the Steinwege, and I really like what they have done here. I think it's a great example of what German Pinot can be. And we also have Salway, which sells very well. We have the Becker Pinot Noirs, so everyone gets to see kind of that. And then I added two more wines because I thought it was really important in honor of Gary Westby's Champagne Summit. But we have the wines of Pierre Spar, and these are the Alsatian sparkling wines, and I think they represent a great value. They are super important for us to sell as well as possible because Wilson Daniels is the importer, and Wilson Daniels is where I get DRC from. So the better job we do of selling Pierre Spar, the better for K&L, because then we might be able to get more DRC. But what's great about it is these wines are actually great values. They're really fantastic. So we start off, we have the Pierre Spar Brut. For $16.99, these can be your entry-level offerings. When someone doesn't want to pay the tariff for $25, $30 champagne, they want something French, they want something approachable, easy to drink, fresh, bright, and lovely. I think this wine fills all those and then some. It's got a good creamy toast to it, great acidity. I mean, I feel like the quality is there that you'd almost feel guilty if you made a mimosa out of it. I think it's better quality than mimosa sparkling. And I actually like it more than the Louis Boyos. I'll let you guys tell me what you think. I mean, it's for $16.99.
I think I've never felt bad about making a mimosa in my life.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what we have
Fresh.
for under 17 bucks and sparkling and from France. I mean, there's Limoux, but I like this better than Limoux. Ooh.
It's a party.
Yes, exactly. So the Brut Rosé, I feel like is really where the quality shows. For $16.99, I think this is delicious. It definitely has what you always want to see, which is good fruit. Like, if you're going to buy rosé wine, I think you buy rosé wine because you really want to have the fruit signature singing through. And I think that's what happens here. You get the red cherry, you get a little bit of like a cinnamon spice, all those kind of fun things. You got the festive color. And like I said, for $16.99, and to help us get more DRC, this is worth it. Like this wine, please. We have it stacked in San Francisco, and I'd love to see it stacked in other locations as well.
We have it on a tabletop.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. So, but I think it's a really strong wine. And on this 90 to 100 degree weather day, I'm really glad I just timed it perfectly to pour my crisp whites.
Just
And that's about it. Thank you guys. I hope everything goes well in LA.